To configure Venus Web and Mobile, first you'll want to go into Web and Options. In here you'll have a few menu options, general options and Quicksign options that will need to be addressed before using Web and Mobile. In general options, you'll see items relating to the broader settings for Venus Web and Mobile. For example, what detail you want to show on Web and Mobile for a roster, whether you want notes to have attachments, and also things like document directory. Document directory is a place where you can actually put files. They'll need to be generic files, they can't be specific to a nurse. But for example, declarations or anything like that you want all staff to have access to, they can access that through Venus Web and Mobile through that documents directory folder. Other items like required terms and conditions, you can define those also in the web menu. We'll go through that in a moment. Under the web terms and conditions menu, you can identify a text file here that you can type yourself. That will be the terms and conditions that the signatory needs to accept before signing. Under the Quicksign options, this is where we can enable the facility for the check-in, check-out and the tolerances there. So we can straight up say use a signature on a timesheet, which is what you'll want if you're using Quicksign. Use the check-in, check-out facility, yes, which uses the geocode of the mobile phone to say where they are at what time when they check into the roster. The auto update roster times, that is to allow the roster to automatically update to the start, end and break times that are entered into the Quicksign. For this here we have a low tolerance of 2 minutes. So anything that's more than 2 minutes early or late won't be automatically updated to the roster, which means that you will need to go into the Quicksign audit screen to have a look at that discrepancy, follow up on that manually and decide whether you want to accept that discrepancy or leave the original roster as is. Auto confirm rosters allows you to have a tolerance set to put that roster through to payroll ready. So if it's 5 minutes in this case, if it is within 5 minutes of the actual start, end and break times, then it can actually go through to timesheet approved or Quicksign approved in this case, and it's ready for payroll. The distance tolerance is in meters. You may want this to be stretched out a little bit. If you have a large facility like a hospital that is a few hundred meters across for the site, geocode on the mobile phone is very accurate to within a dozen meters or so. But if they're parking in a car park somewhere and that's the best signal they get, and they check in at that point, that's something you may want to consider. Show kilometers, that's purely notation. The break times, of course, you want that to be shown in most scenarios. The terms and conditions is the text file that you can upload and have them accept before signatory. Auto split shifts is a standard auto split shift function. Don't auto confirm splittable shifts, allows you to manually go in, see if the roster has been split, if someone went over midnight, for example, and then manually confirm those. Also an option to not confirm if kilometers are entered, if you want to then add an allowance to the roster, and not to auto confirm if there's a note on that roster. You can also configure what the user actually sees on Web and Mobile through menu setup. This is simply ticks on each button in each platform, whether it be the client site or the staff site, and what they see. So if you want to remove the ability for them to see their availabilities or the ability for them to request rosters, you can do that from this menu. To create a new user, it's a web user nurse setup. If you want to add a web user, click add web user, select their username and password. If a staff member is to leave, you can also lock their access to the Web and Mobile facility so they can't log in. If you have clients that want to use the client portal where they can request rosters be filled, you do it through web user hospital setup. From here on the left hand side you can see the actual client user that will be able to log in to the facilities or departments or clients on the right hand side authority levels. You can drop down that menu item and you can see that they have the ability to request rosters by whatever hospitals or whatever nurse types, shift types, or any other details you have listed. In this scenario, you can see Tracy can only roster assistant nurses, carers, enrolled nurses, and midwives. The reset password facility is fairly self-explanatory. You can also lock and unlock the accounts as per the staff accounts.